Hey guys, today I bring you a chilling story that will touch the depths of your soul. Let's meet Magnolia Greystone, a woman who was dead for 13 minutes, and in that short period, was taken into a supernatural experience where she met an angel and received urgent visions about the spiritual state of the world and the events to come. What she saw and heard will completely change the way you see life and the future. So leave your like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content like this, and activate the bell to receive all notifications. Now get ready for this exciting and transformative journey. The night of October 13th, 2023 began with a magical atmosphere. The air was cool, and the sky over Asheville in North Carolina sparkled with stars that seemed especially bright that night. I felt full. My days were full of simplicity and gratitude, but moments like that, with my family, made life even more special. "Grandma, you're going to love my part in the play," Clara exclaimed excitedly as she pulled me by the hand. His eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, and his smile was contagious. "I'm the narrator, so basically I'm the star of the show. And very modest too," joked Ethan, my son, as he rolled his eyes with a smile. Despite his more practical and skeptical personality, it was clear how much he loved his daughter. The school theater was full, with families laughing and talking in hushed tones. The stage lights illuminated the room with a warm tone, creating a welcoming feeling. When Clara arrived on the scene, I felt such great pride that my eyes filled with tears. She was growing up too fast, and every moment with her felt like a precious gift. After the play, we went out for ice cream, something that has become a family tradition. Sitting next to Clara at the local ice cream shop, I listened to her plans for the future. "When I grow up, I want to be a writer. Like you always say I should have been where, Grandma?" "And you'll be amazing at it," I replied, shaking his hand. Clara has always had a special connection with me. She was curious about life, the world, and most recently, God. The trip back home was uneventful. Ethan was driving, and I sat in the passenger seat looking out the window as the city lights faded away. I felt a silent joy, like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. That's when it happened. A sudden, searing pain shot through my chest and the world around me began to darken. I tried calling for Ethan, but my voice wouldn't come out. My body seemed to lose all strength, and my eyes closed as I heard the distant sound of horns and skidding tires. The next moment, there was silence, a deep and complete silence. The silence that enveloped me was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It wasn't overwhelming or empty, but complete, as if filled with something invisible and comforting. The pain was completely gone, and in its place, a lightness came over me. It was as if I had taken off a heavy coat that I had carried all my life. I looked down and saw the scene that should have been impossible to observe. My car was partially wrecked against a tree, the headlights casting a pale glow against the leaves. My body was leaning on the bench, motionless, while Ethan screamed in despair, "Mother, stay with me. Don't leave me now." He tried to open my door, but it was stuck. On some level, I knew I should be worried, but a deep peace kept me from feeling afraid. Suddenly, I felt a gentle force pull me away. I was floating, rising, leaving the scene of chaos behind. There was no gravity, heaviness, or pain, just a feeling of freedom. I saw myself surrounded by a light that seemed alive. It wasn't just an ordinary light, like that of the sun or a lamp. It pulsed, as if it had a heart, and radiated warmth, comfort, and love. It was welcoming, like a hug from an old friend. The colors around me were impossible to describe with human words. They went beyond the spectrum we know. They seemed to have depth, movement, and sound. Each color seemed to tell a story, as if it carried memories and meanings. I didn't know where I was, but I felt no fear, just absolute fascination. It was then that I heard a voice. Magnolia. It was a deep but soft voice, full of authority and love. I turned around, and in front of me was a majestic figure. The angel was enormous, with translucent wings that reflected the vibrant colors around us. His eyes shone like stars, full of compassion and understanding. He looked at me directly, as if he could see into the deepest corners of my soul. "Fear not," he said. His voice carried a weight that made every word echo inside me. "There is something I need to show you." A shiver ran through what was left of my being. I knew, without him needing to explain, that something great was about to happen. The angel reached out his hand to me, and although I hesitated for a moment, I felt an irresistible force guiding me to hold it. His presence was imposing, but at the same time it enveloped me with a warmth that dissipated any trace of fear. As soon as I touched his hand, the environment around us changed. I was floating above the earth, and the sight presented to me left my heart heavy. The planet we knew seemed shrouded in a dense layer of darkness, as if an invisible shadow had taken over. But amidst that oppressive darkness, there were little points of light, like stars against a night sky. "What you are seeing is the spiritual state of the world," said the angel, his voice solemn. He pointed to the lights. "These are the faithful, those who pray and keep their faith, even in the midst of darkness." I looked at the lights more closely. Some were strong, radiant, while others flickered erratically, like candles about to go out. My heart was filled with sadness as I realized that despite their beauty, they were so few compared to the vastness of the darkness around them. Then the angel showed me a more detailed scenario. I saw huge churches, full of people, but a shadow seemed to hang over them. The worship was superficial, like an empty spectacle. "Many worship with their lips, but their hearts are far from God," explained the angel. "They seek material blessings, but neglect a genuine relationship with the Creator." Beside this vision, he showed simple houses, where lonely people were kneeling, praying fervently. Their faces were full of sincerity and humility. The light around them was so bright that it cut through the darkness and illuminated the surroundings. "These are the true worshipers," he said, "those who seek God in spirit and truth." I also saw families destroyed by division and pride, while others united around prayer, finding restoration. The earth seemed at spiritual war, with invisible forces fighting around every corner, every house, every soul. When I looked away from the angel, he looked more serious. "The world is not lost," he said firmly, "but time is short, and the battle is intensifying. What you're seeing now is just the beginning." As I watched, tears ran down my face. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Because you have a role to play, Magnolia, and you need to be prepared." As soon as the angel spoke those words, the scenario changed again. Planet Earth disappeared from view, and before me appeared something that looked like a clock, but it was not like any other I had ever seen. Its hands rotated irregularly, changing speed and direction, as if each movement was linked to something much larger than human time. The dial glowed with a celestial glow, and each marking seemed to contain a story. "This is the celestial clock," explained the angel Ariel. "It does not measure hours or days as you know it, but events that are to come, aligned with God's plan." Suddenly, images began to appear inside the clock, like visions projected onto its surface. The first vision showed conflicts on a global scale, wars emerging where there was once peace, nations rising up against others, as multitudes cried out for justice. The scenes were chaotic and painful, but even there, small points of light shone, indicating that faith still resisted. "Wars and rumors of wars," said the angel, his voice heavy with meaning. "This was predicted, but many have forgotten. These events are part of the fulfilling of the times, but the human heart will continue to be tested. Views have changed. Now, I have seen natural disasters of devastating proportions. Earthquakes cracking the earth, hurricanes destroying entire cities, floods sweeping away everything in their path. At the same time, a generation of young people appeared amidst the chaos. They carried a flame, not physical but spiritual, and touched the lives of those around them. A generation will rise with authenticity, rooted in divine truth," Ariel explained. "They will be light in the midst of darkness, bringing others back to the right path." Another scene emerged, fascinating but disturbing technological advances. Devices were used to track, control, and manipulate the population, all under the guise of progress and security. Technology will be a tool of deception for many, used to divert them from their greater purpose, said the angel. But those who seek divine wisdom will not be deceived. The most impactful vision came last. I saw a multitude of people from all nations, wearing dazzling clothes and shining like stars. They were gathered in worship, not in temples or churches, but in spirit and truth, connected by something much greater than earthly structures. "This is the bride of Christ," declared Ariel. "These are those who have been purified by trials and remained faithful. They will shine with supernatural light regardless of the darkness around them." When the vision stopped, I turned my eyes to the angel. unable to hold back the tears. Why me? Why are you showing me all this? Because you need to be a voice, Magnolia. People need to know that time is running out and that they must prepare. Christ's return is closer than they think. The visions began to take on a darker tone. The angel Ariel led me to a place that seemed to exist between light and darkness. There was a pulsating energy field there, where shadows moved stealthily, almost imperceptibly. I could feel the tension in the air, as if something was being plotted. What you are seeing now is the time of deception, Ariel said with a warning tone. This will be the most difficult period for humanity. It will not come as a burst of darkness, but as a subtle current, invading hearts and minds. The scenes before me revealed a world where truths were distorted, often so subtly that it seemed impossible to discern the false from the true. Religious leaders preached charismatic messages, but their teachings lacked spiritual substance. Many Christians will go astray by compromising their faith for convenience, Ariel explained. They will seek what pleases their ears but not what feeds their souls. I then saw a chase scene. It started with subtle discrimination, Christians being publicly ridiculed for their beliefs, losing job opportunities, or being excluded from social circles. Over time, the persecution became more severe. Churches were silenced, faith communities were monitored, and those who refused to compromise their principles faced dire consequences. You should warn about this, Ariel said, fixing her gaze on me. The true church will not be destroyed, but it will be tested. The pressure will make it stronger, but many will fall before they see the truth. Next, Ariel showed me the advancement of technology, but not in a way that inspired progress. I saw devices that integrated into the human body, promising convenience and health improvements. However, I also saw how these tools were used to track every thought, every action of everyone who used them. People became prisoners of their own acceptance. Many will accept these things without question, Ariel explained, because they will seem good and useful. But you must warn against the danger of trusting in men more than in God. Divine wisdom will be the key to discerning what is true and which is a mistake. The next vision was of hearts being hardened by pride and selfishness. I saw families destroying themselves, friendships being broken, and a spiritual void taking over people. But amidst this, there was also a glimmer of hope. Small communities of believers coming together in prayer, resisting the pressure of the world around them. At Magnolia, the deception will be great, but the power of God will be greater. Darkness can only win where there is no light. Tell people to keep the flame of faith burning. After the dark visions, Ariel led me to a scene that filled me with hope and awe. I was back on the spiritual plane, floating above the earth again. But this time, my eyes were fixed on the small points of light that had been shown to me before. The lights now seemed to move, like flames dancing in the wind, and as I watched them, I noticed something extraordinary. They were coming together. These lights are prayers, Ariel explained. Each prayer is an act of faith that cuts through the darkness and connects the earthly world to the spiritual. They form a shield against the forces of darkness. I saw people kneeling in their rooms, others in groups gathered in silence. There were children praying simply and elderly people shedding tears in silent supplications. The sound of prayers seemed to echo, creating a melody that resonated throughout the universe. It was so beautiful that tears ran down my face. Notice how they connect, Ariel said. As I got closer, I saw the lights merging into one, creating a wave of bright energy that seemed to spread across the world. Where there was darkness before, I saw small flashes that made room for more light. Then Ariel showed me the impact of these prayers. I saw a man about to give up his life, standing on the edge of a bridge. But at the moment when a grandmother, miles away, prayed for him without knowing his name, he fell to his knees, crying and feeling an inexplicable warmth in his heart. A sincere prayer can change the destiny of a soul, said Ariel. Never underestimate your power. Then I saw families restored through prayer, couples reconciling, children getting back on the right path. But Ariel also showed that not all prayers were effective. He took me to a place where people repeated empty words without passion or purpose. These lights had no brightness, and their prayers had no impact on the spiritual realm. The prayers that move the heavens come from sincere hearts, Ariel said, with a firm tone. I teach people to pray not just with words, Makor, but with life. Finally, Ariel showed me what happened when many prayers came together. The combined light formed something like a wall of spiritual fire, repelling the forces of darkness. I saw entire communities being protected because of prayers offered in unity. Magnolia, said Ariel, you must tell people that their prayers are more powerful than they know. Every word spoken in faith is like a sword against the darkness. As Ariel spoke, I felt a deep desire to pray, to join this spiritual battle that was being fought. After witnessing the transformative power of prayer, Ariel showed me something even deeper. It was as if a curtain had been pulled back before me, revealing detailed scenes that seemed to pulse with life. Now you will see the instructions and movements that God is raising up in the world. These are messages that you must carry in your heart and share with everyone who is willing to listen, said Ariel, with a tone of authority that made me shudder. The first vision was one of unity. I saw people of different races, cultures, and backgrounds coming together, not in large churches or temples, but in their homes, parks, and simple spaces. Each one brought something unique, a testimony, a song, a prayer. They were connected by a greater force, driven by a purpose that transcended human barriers. Ariel explained, God is bringing his people together, not through physical structures, but through the Spirit. They will not need walls or institutions to find each other. The Holy Spirit will guide them. The next vision showed a movement between young and old. I saw young people rising up with a burning passion for God. They were not interested in empty religious traditions, but sought authenticity, truth, and purpose. His prayers were full of strength, and his acts of faith drew others to the light. At the same time, I saw elderly people, who previously felt forgotten, being renewed. Their prayers were like pillars that supported the youth movement. The Spirit is moving generations, Ariel said. The young have the energy, but the old have the wisdom and experience. Together, they are unstoppable. So I saw families being restored, parents and children embracing after years of separation, homes once destroyed by pride being rebuilt by love. Ariel explained, God is restoring the family nucleus, because it is through it that faith will be passed on. The next sight was unexpected. I saw professionals in offices, hospitals, schools, and even markets being used as living witnesses. They were not preaching with words, but with their actions, integrity, compassion, and love. God is raising up an invisible church in the job market, said Ariel. They will pay a heavy price, but the impact will be eternal. Finally, Ariel revealed the awakening of spiritual gifts. I saw people who had never thought about prophecy or healing begin to manifest these gifts. The gifts of the Spirit are being poured out abundantly, he explained, not for the glory of men, but for the building up of the body of Christ. These revelations left me amazed and, at the same time, overwhelmed. How can I carry all this? I asked, feeling the weight of the mission. Ariel placed her hand on my shoulder, her eyes shining with compassion. You are not alone, Magnolia. God will give you strength, wisdom, and allies. But remember, time is short. Prepare them. After everything I saw, the weight of the mission began to settle on me. Ariel looked at me seriously, as if she knew what I was feeling. He raised his hand, and a soft light began to envelop us. Magnolia, you have seen what you needed to see. Now, it is time to return. Your journey on Earth is not yet over. I felt a tightness in my chest. I didn't want to go back. At that moment, the peace I felt in that place, the light, the love, everything seemed infinitely better than anything earthly life could offer. But how can I go back after all this? I asked, my voice shaking. I'm not strong enough. I don't know how to share this. You won't be left alone, Ariel said, her voice full of firmness. The Holy Spirit will guide your every step. You have a mission, Magnolia, and what you have seen will change lives. Trust. Suddenly, I felt a force pulling me back, as if an invisible magnet was attracting me. The surrounding light began to fade, and the sound of distant voices began to fill the void. My body felt heavy again, like I was being placed back into a tight, uncomfortable coat. I heard screams. She's coming back. We have a pulse. The voice was a man's, full of surprise and urgency. My heart started beating like it was being forced to work again. Each pulse was painful, but at the same time, it was a reminder that I was alive. I opened my eyes slowly, blinking against the bright lights of the hospital. My chest burned, and my breathing was shallow, but I was there, back. Dr. Marlowe Hayes' face came into view with a mixture of relief and amazement. Magnolia, you gave us a scare. You were, well, technically dead for 13 minutes. Upon hearing those words, everything that had happened during those minutes came back to my mind like an avalanche. Ariel, the visions, the words. My body was there, but my mind and spirit were still caught up in the enormity of what I had experienced. Ethan stood next to me, his expression a mix of relief and disbelief. "Mom, are you okay? What happened? You scared us so much." I wanted to respond, but my throat was dry and my voice didn't come out at first. I took his hand tightly, trying to convey the urgency of what I needed to say. "Ethan," I whispered, my voice hoarse, "I have something important to tell you." He shook his head, confused, but didn't interrupt me. It was as if even he, in his usual disbelief, knew that something profound had happened. My physical recovery was miraculous, but what worried me most was how to share what I had experienced. In the days that followed, every detail of the experience remained alive in my mind, like a flame that was impossible to put out. However, when I began to share what I saw and heard, I faced resistance I didn't expect, especially from Ethan. "Mom, you've been through a lot. Maybe this is all just a result of the trauma of the heart attack," he said, sitting next to me in the hospital room. His tone was gentle but laced with skepticism. "Ethan, it wasn't a dream, nor a hallucination," I insisted, holding his hand. "I saw an angel. He showed me things about the world, about what's to come. God brought me back for a reason." He rubbed his face, exhaling a long sigh. "You know I love you, Mom, but an angel? Visions of the future? This seems like something out of a fairy tale." Clara, who was sitting in the corner of the room, heard everything in silence, but her expression was one of deep attention. She was always more open to the spiritual, and her look said that she believed in every word. "Dad, why do you always have to rationalize everything?" Clara finally spoke, her voice thick with youthful indignation. "Don't you see something bigger has happened? She's here, alive, unharmed. This is already a miracle." Ethan looked at her, clearly torn between his love for his daughter and his tendency to explain everything logically. "Clara, miracles are just coincidences that science can't yet explain," he replied, but his voice sounded less convinced than before. That night, Clara stayed with me at the hospital. As Ethan walked home, she held my hand and said, with tears in her eyes, "Grandma, I believe in you. You saw something special, and I want to help you do what God asked." Her eyes shone with genuine faith, and at that moment, I realized that Clara would be my greatest ally. "Thank you, my dear. You are a light, and God will use you in ways you can't even imagine." Over the next few days, the tension between Ethan and I continued. He avoided talking about my visions, preferring to focus on medical care. However, Clara started sharing what I said with her friends and schoolmates, and the impact was immediate. Young people began to gather to hear my testimony, even while I was still in the hospital. Maybe he needs more time, I thought about Ethan, but deep down, I knew God was working in his heart. It was just a matter of patience and faith. When I was released from the hospital, I felt physically fragile, but spiritually stronger than ever. It was as if a burning flame had been placed inside me, a flame I knew I couldn't ignore. Every detail of the near-death experience was still etched in my mind, and the urgency that the angel Ariel had placed in my heart echoed constantly. "Time is short," he had said. "Prepare them." Back home in Asheville, I began sharing my testimony with those who would listen. At first, they were just close friends and neighbors. We gathered in the living room, with Clara at my side, leading the prayers and singing soft songs. But as the weeks went by, the meetings began to grow. People of all ages and backgrounds came to listen. Many left crying, others with renewed hope. "Magnolia, you have a greater mission than you realize," said Dr. Marlo Hayes at one of these meetings. He, who had initially treated me only as a patient, was now one of the most ardent supporters of my testimony. "What you are saying is touching hearts. People need to hear this on a larger scale." Ethan, however, remained distant. He attended meetings out of obligation, but rarely said anything. During one meeting, as I was describing views on the unity of true believers and the intergenerational movement, he finally said, "Mom, this is all inspiring, but how do you expect people to believe this? Isn't it easier to say that you had an extreme emotional experience and now want to inspire others?" His question hurt my heart, but I remained calm. "Ethan, you don't have to believe me right now, but God is working. Even if you don't see it, you will see the fruits of what he is doing at the right time. Despite Ethan's disbelief, the fruits began to manifest. Young people like Clara were leading small prayer groups in schools, while elderly people were finding new strength to intercede for their families. People who were previously indifferent to faith were giving themselves over to fervent prayer. One day, during one of these meetings, a woman stood up with tears in her eyes. "I was about to give up on everything," she said, her voice breaking. "But hearing your testimony gave me new hope. Thank you for sharing." As she spoke, I saw Ethan in the back of the room, his face filled with emotion. Something was changing in him. After the meeting, he reached out and, for the first time, seemed truly open. "Mom, what if all this is real? How do you think we can prepare?" I took his hands and looked deep into his eyes. "Ethan, it's not about doing big things or getting caught up in rituals. It's about a genuine relationship with Jesus, about letting him transform your heart. Start praying. He will guide you." The days that followed were transformational. Ethan began to actively participate in meetings, asking questions and praying alongside Clara. He was changing, and I knew God was keeping his promise. Now, with every word I share, I feel the urgency increase. Get ready, I tell people. Time is short. Christ is closer than we imagine. Abandon superficial religious practices and live with genuine faith. My mission continues, and I know that each seed planted has the potential to change lives. The heavenly clock I saw is moving, and I pray that everyone will be ready when the time comes. If you liked this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment on your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.